Well, hello, writers. Welcome to episode number 535 of Ink in Your Veins. I'm Rachel Herron, and I am so thrilled that you are here with me today as I am talking to Louisa Owen Sonstroem, who writes about sewing in a way that I cannot put it down. She is a divine writer, and I've been obsessed with her work for a while, and I was so excited to get her on the show. You know, I like to talk to people who write all sorts of things, poems and songs and nonfiction about hand sewing. This conversation ranges far and wide, and we really talk about bringing the ideas that we care about into the world in the way that makes the most sense to us. Giving and also giving yourself the dignity of writing your book your way. You are going to love this. So stick around for the interview. That's coming up shortly. What's been going on around here? Just a short update for me. Nano has been so fun. I've been doing my chatter draft, which I explained and wrote out and talked about in my most recent email that I sent out yesterday to writers. So if you're not on my email writers list of encouragement, please go to rachelherron.com/write to get on that. People are coming back to me with wonderful things to say about this idea of the chatter draft, as well as some people saying, "Oh my God, this is what I do, and I've always felt I was cheating, or I wasn't doing it right, or this was just too terrible to even to admit to." Uh, no, you've discovered a process that works for you. Congratulations. So I'm very glad that I talked about it. Tomorrow is Friday, the November 28th, and I am hoping to have all of my scenes chattered by tomorrow. However, I've got a bunch of things to do, so I may need to go into the weekend of NaNoWriMo, which I was trying not to do. But I'm so close. I think I could call it as a skeleton draft right now. There's just a couple things I do want to flesh out if I can. But basically, it's going to look like I have about 25,000 words of a draft. It is the barest bones, skeletoned, chattered draft I've ever written, and it feels better than any draft I've ever done. Because inside that, inside those scenes that are, 35 words to 700 words, are all of the bones that I need. And of course, they'll move and change when I get in there and start revision, but it will not be moving from an outline to a first draft. It'll be moving from a first draft to a second draft, which is honestly my happy place. So not only have I had this happy place of chatter drafting, then I get to go into revision. I could not be more excited about that. So that it's just been so fun. And what else? I have to tell you that we are doing the online writing retreat again. First weekend in January. This is the Writing in the Junkyard retreat. And what writing in the junkyard really means is we write from our real lives. We write inside the debris. We don't need to clean anything up. We don't need to clean our brains up. We don't need to clean our desks up. We don't need to get our projects in perfect working order. We just get together and write together. We did this last year. It was a huge hit. The number one comment I got on what I could do better was I just wanted more time. Please give us more time. So this time, instead of two shorter days and a 1 hour on the first day, over 3 days, we're doing it only on 2 days, just a Saturday, Sunday, but for 6 hours, including a break. So don't worry, I'm not going to make you work for 6 hours without stopping. But that's 12 hours of this writing retreat, which will be guided. I will be guiding, teaching, helping, supporting. We will be giving each other inspiration. You will be working on your own project. I will have prompts, of course, if you want them, but this is really a better place to bring your own project, even if it's you're just starting to think about it or starting to get back into it or pulling it out from a long break. These are 12 focused hours over the course of 2 days, which is a lot more than any of us ever do, including myself. So we're going to be exploring how to do that. You will also walk away with a blueprint that I will give you for creating your own perfect writing retreat. You'll be taking the lessons you learn in our writing retreat, Writing in the Junkyard, to your next one that you can do by yourself or with friends. So I'm very, very much looking forward to doing this with you. It's on the 3rd and the 4th of January. The link is rachelherron.com/retreat, and there is an early bird special that I believe goes until December 19th. What did I make it? I can tell you exactly. Oh, December 15th. You have until December 15th to get in on the early bird special. So just go to rachelherron.com/retreat. Please join us. And if you are a member of Ink Village at the garden level or up, you're already in. It's just a freebie that I give to you for being in Ink Village. You can always go look at the Ink Village offerings too by going to rachelherron.com/Ink Village, or all the links are in the show notes as usual. Please come to this retreat. Please hang out with us and start your year off in the way you wish it to continue, with focus, with joy, inspiration, and most of all, ease. Finding your best, easiest, kindest, sweetest way to get your writing on the page. It's really important. All right. So I hope that you will join us. Let me tell you a little bit about Louisa here, and then you're going to love this interview. Louisa Owen Sonstroem considers garment making skills to be deeply empowering. Louisa writes and teaches about pattern making and hand stitching clothing. For most of a decade, she worked in technical design and pattern making, most recently for Macy's and Eileen Fisher. Previous projects have included a self-published book called Hand Sewing Clothing, a Guide, as well as 2 seasons of Pattern Making in Public Places, an outreach project she started to democratize access to pattern making skills. This year, Louisa is celebrating the August release of her newest book, The Handsewn Wardrobe, a complete guide to making your own clothes from pattern making to the finishing stitches, in collaboration with Storey Publishing. Oh boy, here we go. Well, I could not be more pleased to welcome you to the show. Will you please share your name and pronouns with us?
Yes, hi. My name is Louisa Owen Sonstroem, and my pronouns are she, her.
I am so excited to have you. I have been a fan of your work since your first self-published, was it called Hand Sewing Clothing? Uh, is that a guide? Yeah, it was such a beautiful book. And a friend, it got to me the way I think probably a lot of your readers have gotten your first book, which was a friend loaned me hers and said, "You must give it back, and I will kill you if you don't give it back." And I was actually already living in New Zealand. So when I went to the States on a visit, I had mailed it to my sister, and she held my copy for me. And then I took it home and loaned it to a friend here and threatened her with death if I didn't get it back. But you write about sewing, slow fashion, really taking time and crafting our clothing, which is not a topic that we usually talk about on the show. But the reason I wanted to have you on here was that you are one of those nonfiction writers that I just want to read you. I just want to read your work. Your books are something that I take into bed to read for fun when I'm not near a needle or a thread, when I'm not using it for reference. How do I do this particular felled seam? I'm just reading it because I enjoy your words so much. Can you give us a little bit about a little history of yourself as a writer?
Sure. First of all, thanks. That's so nice to hear. And when I was a tiny child, and up to about a medium-sized child, I did think that I wanted to be a writer. And then other interests kind of took precedence, and eventually I did actually my first real job out of college, and I was an English major, even though I wasn't planning to be a writer. It's so funny how life just like points you in these directions, even though you
Uh-huh.
don't notice it. But my first job out of college was as a local newspaper reporter. Um, so it was a small newspaper, so they really worked us. And that was really, I mean, it was a stressful job, but it was a great job for somebody who likes writing.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't love the reporting part, like the sort of like, asking hard questions of people in my community part. I found that to be very stressful and awkward. But the writing part, I just loved it. So, um, I eventually went on to other things though, and went back to school for fashion, well, technically fashion design, but what I was trying to learn was more about pattern making. I started working in New York's fashion industry and started hand sewing kind of as a response to the speed and wastefulness of that. So all these
Hmm.
different threads. But I eventually started teaching hand sewing and pattern making, and I got back into writing because I was developing class materials to teach these skills. And for me, I guess writing was just the really natural way to do that. I mean, I suppose like video, for example, could be a great way to kind of like give students some extra resources. But for me, it was just like, no, you have to have this, like, you have to have your little book.
I am one of those
And it
people who
has
will,
to,
I hate referring to a video for instructions. I will do it. Sure, I'll do it if I'm fixing the sink or whatever, but I want to read it. I want to see little images that are hand drawn. Yeah,
yeah,
go on.
yeah, totally. Well, exactly. So, so for um, my first kind of significant hand sewing class that I was teaching, I'd been developing this class handout. And by the time the class started, it was 80 pages long. And I said, oops, this, I still have a lot more to say too. So I think this might be more than like a handout. So, thus began the real writing of my first book, um, Hand Sewing Clothing, a Guide, which you mentioned, which I self-published, and I have so much to say about the pluses and minuses of the way that worked for me. I
Will
don't,
you please say some of those pluses and minuses because that's what listeners of the show are really interested in. And
yeah,
I personally do both. I do trad and I do self-publishing, although not
yeah.
as labor intensive as your beautiful book was. So tell us all about that.
Oh boy. So, so yeah, so my first book was self-published. My most recent book, which is like not even easy for you to see, but here it is anyway. Trying to look cute is traditionally published, and I really appreciated things about both both ways of going about publishing. So, back when I made the first book, which I released in January 2021. Time is just wild these days, but I think that's true. Um, I self-published it because first of all, I said I don't think I have the platform for publishers to even like like talk to me.
Hmm.
And also from what I've heard, um, publishing a book takes years, and I kind of think that this is a topic that needs to be shared right now. Like
Hmm.
a few months, like a year, but not 4 years.
Right, right.
And also I said, I actually feel like I have a lot to say, and I think if I wait 4 years, somebody else will have said it, and I really want to be saying it right now.
Hmm.
So, I wore all of the hats. Um, I mean, I like called upon friends and family to do some editing for me. And I did not use my home printer, but I did physically hand fold and bind the first, I'm not sure how many books, like hundreds of books. I wasn't thinking that I would get more than like 100 people to buy it. So I was like, this is gonna be fine. Like it'll be, it'll be some work, but it'll be fine. And then I am just delighted to say that through no marketing from me, like, but it was
Yeah.
so labor intensive making them and fulfilling the orders that I was like, I have these beautiful marketing plans, but I am not going to market because I can't handle that. But through just word of mouth, from readers, I had many more than a few hundred people who ended up wanting the book, which is so cool. Um, and um, so now I have a spiral bound version, which still takes some manual work because I'm kind of fussy about the way I want it to look, and so I have to do some like hand folding, gluing of the covers myself. But it's much less intensive than it used to be, labor-wise for me. So I loved about that self-publishing experience that I got experience with everything. Like I learned a lot about how you have to think about laying things out on a page, which now none of this or very little of this is going to apply to fiction writers or something, but for a how-to book, you have your diagrams, you have to kind of convey things visually in a way that makes sense
And you're
on
doing
the
this all in
page.
your own hand. Like your handwriting is the text in there, and your own drawings were the diagram. So not only are you laying it out, but you're laying out your handwork as well, which
Yeah,
I
my handwriting was the headers for all of the sections. My
Mhm.
yeah, as you said, I hand drew all of the illustrations, all of the diagrams. So um all of the hats. Um and that was a lot of work, but for my personality type, that was like a good fit at the time.
Mhm.
And turns out my personality type is not so into order fulfillment, so that was a good lesson learned.
Whose is really somebody.
But but what I will say is that for anybody, I probably in any genre who has things to say and isn't sure they'll be able to get somebody else to listen, just going ahead and doing it anyway and not having to ask permission
Yeah.
was everything, and sure enough, the readers were there for it. So, which, I think is not just my doing. It happened to be a really good time, for people to kind of be interested in that. And I had some very kind people who had bigger audiences talking about it and sharing. So, but had I never said, okay, fine, I'm just going to do it anyway, like, you gotta you
Hmm.
gotta put yourself out there. So
And had you not done
I'm
that, then you wouldn't have gotten the traditional deal. I am sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
So within a month, I think, of releasing my first book, I was like literally just like all my quote unquote free time and, borrowed sleep time and eating time and everything else time was spent binding these books. It was ridiculous. But anyway, during that ridiculous phase, but it was very sweet. It was very earnest. I got an email from Storey Publishing, which is a publishing house that I respect very much. And they said,
Hmm.
like,
Me too.
hey, you want to talk? And I said, oh,
Also, what a good eye that they have on what is happening. Like
yeah,
that they were the ones to reach out to you that quickly. That's really impressive.
yeah, definitely. And so I have so much respect for them. And I can say that even now, having
Even now that
like
you've been published.
done pretty
That's
much the
nice.
whole process, like I have really enjoyed working with them. And um, I think because I had worn all of the hats the first time around, I was so ready to say, like, you know what? You figure out the you figure out the page layouts, you figure out the cover. I don't know what to call it. Like,
And
it
that
was
is what they're good
wonderful.
at. They're the best, especially somebody like Story. This is not like this is their craft is making beautiful books like this. And
Yeah.
we haven't said the title of that one yet. It is The Handsewn Wardrobe, a complete guide to making your own clothes, from pattern making to finishing stitches. So but I would encourage people, and I will put the link in the show notes. But I would encourage people to get on your mailing list because your mailing list is really beautiful. I love that. I love the emails you send. You're bringing that same voice to your emails, and I know from reading your emails that, oh my God, it was a hell of a lot of work to bring that to life too, because there was so much more in it. And am I correct? You still did the diagrams by hand in
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Yes. I still did them. I mean, So, okay, well, this is its own question. Like, are they by hand? I drew them with my hand with a stylus in
Yes,
Procreate. So,
I
like, is
believe
that
that
by
counts.
hand? I say yes. But
Absolutely.
was
100%.
it on paper? No.
We don't care.
Anyway,
Yeah, no. It was your hand that made
yes.
it. Yeah. And you had a lot of those to do. You had a lot of finishing work to do. What was it
Yes.
like um, to finally get it out there in that form and easily available from any bookstore and any craft store?
I love that I do not sell this book. People are like, how can I buy it? And I'm like, anywhere, like, not from
Google
me,
it.
though.
Yeah. Your favorite vendor?
Yeah. Yeah, really. It's so great. Yeah, so it was lovely. It is
Hmm.
lovely. Um and there are definitely like it it shows it has the fingerprints of more people's hands on it.
Mm,
Um and I mean I do love, and I think a lot of people love, that my first book only has my fingerprints. Like it's very personal. It's like, a hand-drawn thing that a friend passes to you that but um there's so much talent and like intelligence that's not mine that went into my newer book. So having more eyes on it, having more editors, having just professionals of every sort, designers, photographers, all of it was very cool.
mm.
So for the future, um, when or if I write another book, I think it would really depend on the book which model I would choose.
Yeah.
Um, you know, there are some ideas that are just things that I care about so much that I think maybe would be harder to sell to people who have to invest tens of $1,000s into your book idea, but that I would care about so much that I might feel fine about selling to 100 people anyway, and maybe it would turn out to be more. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it kind of depends.
What a beautiful way to say that. And I know that you are giving listeners a lot to think about in a really beautiful way. So thank you. Thank you for that. What is the most exciting thing you've ever realized about your personal writing process?
Well, um, I guess I have two conflicting answers to that.
Excellent. My favorite.
So, um, we haven't mentioned this yet, but it's so funny to me that I haven't actually mentioned this yet, and I've been talking this long because it's like the central fact of my life now. I have a toddler.
Yeah.
So everything in my life revolves around having a small child. So back in the before times, before having a child, um, a very exciting discovery for me was that if I woke up early in the morning before everybody else in the house and I sat down at my table and gave myself the hardest assignment on my list, like write the hardest part that I don't know how to do yet.
Hmm.
Um, that it would just kind of almost magically happen because I was so kind of half asleep
Hmm.
that I wouldn't argue with myself and I would just kind of go like, okay, I'll go do it, and it would get done. So, um,
Genius.
I'm I'm now not remembering the exact wording of your question, but it was a very it was an exciting discovery for me, that if I plop myself in the chair when I am too tired or half asleep really to argue, that it will happen. And the quality would not be bad. Like it would
Right.
usually be my words were there. It was just my will to argue with myself that wasn't yet.
Exactly. I've always thought of this particular idea as the editor is sleepy. Like the
Yeah.
editor is not woken up yet. The editor that is usually screaming at us that we're doing it wrong and this isn't right. Try it, try again, loser. It's not there. So we can do the hard thing. I love
Yeah.
that. So what is the
Yeah.
conflicting thing that you have found? Toddler, re-toddler.
Yes. So, I should say I signed my new book contract when I was, I think, 6 months pregnant.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought that that was going to be so totally fine. It's like, this will be hard, but I do hard things. You just get it done. You just figure it out. And for the parents in the room, that was some idealistic thinking. So would not recommend because so actually I should mention this. My guess is that many of your listeners are fiction writers.
Hmm.
Um, and perhaps other genres where you, I think, traditionally have to have your whole manuscript written
Yes. Most
before
most
the
most
publisher
novels
will.
and most memoirs, unless you're really got a huge platform, nowadays require the full
Yeah.
manuscript. Yeah.
And with craft publishing, you write a pretty nice, intense, thick proposal
Hmm.
with like a sample chapter or two, but like the whole book you generally have not written yet.
Right.
So
It would have
back
been
when I was
easier
six
if
months
you
pregnant,
had. Yeah.
yeah. So lessons learned, but somehow I got it done. And so that is the other exciting exciting realization about process for me is that it is technically possible to write a book when you are getting very little sleep and can't wake up at 5 in the morning and count on having 2 hours
Right.
to yourself or whatever, it is still possible to write in ideal circumstances. So I wrote this new book, all on like borrowed time, generally borrowed from, my husband watching our baby, which of course, he's also a parent. This is also his job, but either me kind of begging time that way, or from my mom, or me stealing time from when I could have been asleep, which was kind of a precious resource. So,
Yeah.
even sleep deprived and at my worst time for words of the day, which is to say right before bedtime, like I can't talk. I like
Me
the
too.
words don't come, but even then it was possible for me to kind of somehow get through it anyway. The somehow is, murky, but
And
but
you
it is
and you
possible.
and you don't want to do that again. But it does remind me how I always see, pregnant friends. This is when they are doing the renovation on the house, and they're like, "Oh, we'll just live in the basement for 2 weeks. It'll be fine." And it's 6 months later, and the baby's, crawling. So I am glad that you made it through. What part of writing do you struggle with the most?
Hmm. Um, so yeah, okay, I know. I struggle with word count. Um, I usually end up having said far more than I should have. I think this is probably many of
Me
us, but
too.
I usually end up, I mean, I submitted this manuscript. Um, I think it was supposed to be 90,000 words, and I submitted closer to 150,000. So, um, and I was like, well, that's
Amazing.
what editors are for.
And to be honest, that is what they're for. Yes, especially if you've sold the proposal. I always like to say, I'm giving them a gift. I'm allowing them to do their job. They wouldn't have anything else to do.
But I will say that they can only do so much magic. Like they still require you to think
Yeah. Yeah.
about what should be cut and to kind of massage things back into their flowing
Hmm.
form once you've chopped out, 60,000 words. So, that is something
That
I
is
struggle with
hilarious.
is brevity or really just kind of limiting.
Hmm.
Like I really, my philosophy is definitely, hey, reader, sure, you can do it this way because it's a how-to book, but you could also do it that way. And like, you know, this is a great tool to have. But if you don't have that one, you could use this thing out of your junk drawer or this thing out of your recycling bin or whatever. And so my editor was like, Louisa, you could just tell them to get the thing and then just kind of, oop, that's it. That's it. Just go get the
No,
thing.
I
And I was
like
like,
your
but
voice. Yeah, I like your and as a super fan, I would have wanted the 150,000 word, but I would have read all the extra 60,000 words. And I understand that paper is heavy and expensive to print on, and that is one of the reasons why they want us to bring these things down. What, may I ask you, what is the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself as a writer?
Um, well, I did already mention this, but I guess just to kind of underline it, putting my words out there even though nobody had kind of bought into them yet.
Yeah.
In other words, you know, self-publishing. Um, but I'm kind of putting that in quotes because it wouldn't have to necessarily look like self-publishing. And also, I feel like that's kind of like a, I don't know, different people like different words to refer to what I'm talking about.
Some
But
people call it indie publishing. I like to
yes,
respect both terms.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think just giving myself the sort of dignity to say things and put them out there, even though nobody else except, my mom, my dad, my husband had, officially said, "Oh yes, this is worth hearing." I
Mm,
think that's a kind thing to do
I think that's a
for oneself as a
beautifully,
writer.
beautifully kind thing to do. Thank you. Can you tell us about a specific moment when you knew you had ink in your veins?
Hmm. Well, um, back when I was in fourth grade, which how old would I have been? Like 10 or so, plus or minus. I thought I wanted to be a poet, and I uh, submitted a poem to a local poetry contest, and I won some like little sub prize, subcategory little prize, and got to recite the poem for like the local high school audience auditorium. And I remember my fourth grade teacher who like she was so cool. She just like believed in all of us. She came.
Oh,
And I remember that was just so validating. And I remember she gave me this special pen afterward. And I think that kind of that moment, among others, sort of told me, you know what, I can be this in public if I want to be. And I think it's I think as somebody who does like written word as a way of thinking, as a way of communicating, as a way of teaching, as a way of whatever it is, having that public validation for something that you're already kind of naturally inclined to do was really important.
especially being honored that way by an adult that you admired and that you were seeing in a different environment and they came to see you.
Yeah.
And that is so cool. Is that teacher still around? Do you know? Have you ever looked for them?
I think she's still around. I don't know if she remembers me,
It does, I
but
don't,
I remember her.
it doesn't matter if you ever found her, out there online or on Facebook or something, shooting her an email saying, and you probably don't remember me, but I remember this and look at my book. And I thought of you. Like
Yeah.
I just think that is really, really beautiful that you had the ink in your veins, you put it on the page, and you were honored for that, and that really stuck with you. Thank you for sharing that. That is so cool. Can you share a book that you have loved recently?
Yes. So, you had mentioned ahead of time that this would be a question that you would be asking, and
That's the hardest question usually. If I ask it off the cuff, no one has an answer for it.
it was my least favorite question.
I
Um,
apologize.
I don't know. I'm not somebody. I don't know why, but I find these questions. I mean, I guess apparently a lot of people find this kind of question difficult, but like also like what kind of music do you like? I don't know. I just
Who
kind of
knows?
like it.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
um but so the best answer I can give is what am I currently reading and what have I been
Perfect.
enjoying? I will say my I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks and kind of
Love
like
it.
Libby reading on my phone because of, toddler baby
Yeah.
life the past few years. So, um, my husband occasionally be like, "Oh, what are you reading?" And I'd be like, "Oh my goodness, it's so like hard. It's about these really sad things that have been like, oh my goodness, waiting to hear this like heartbreaking story." And he'd be like, why do you read all of these like dark, hard things?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." It's
That's
anyway,
what we're supposed to do.
so recently, I've been dabbling in like happy books.
Yes.
And turns out I love them too.
Yeah,
So,
I feel so strongly that my last book that came out a couple months ago, I wrote one. I was just like, I can't
yeah.
do any more thrillers or dark. I needed light and crafty. So tell us what is light for you?
Yeah. So, Abby Jimenez,
Oh, she's great.
yes,
Yeah.
I've been, so her series is, I'm like looking at my little cheat sheet here so that I make sure I say it right. I listened to Part of Your World, and then, I'm also working my way through the rest of the little series, which is Yours Truly and Just for the Summer. And, they're like rom-com novels, and they're also about other things beyond just
Yeah.
like, a love story. They're about kind of the ways that people have to show up for each other or choose to put boundaries around how they're going to show up because of, trauma and just all of these things. And I'm like just
Yes.
slurping it up. I love it.
And the way she writes about family and choices
Yeah.
around family and boundaries, like you said, and she's just such a reliable read.
I
Awesome.
also didn't realize at first when I started listening to the second one by her that Libby was like, "Oh, you listened to the other one. Do you want this one?" I was like, "Sure." I didn't realize that they were going to be part of the same world and have kind of overlapping characters. So I was like, she really likes to have her main characters do blah 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 and live in this place. Like
I would do
this
that.
just must be like her thing. And then all of a sudden we were like running into these people who we knew from the other book and I was like, "Oh, are like connected." And now I'm like almost through the third one and I'm like, "Oh, I got it. This is cool."
Oh, that is so
Yeah.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
I haven't read her in a while. I think she has a newish book out too. I'll have to figure out what that is. And can you tell us just a little bit about the Handsewn Wardrobe? I know we already have covered a little bit of it, but what's the official
Yeah.
details?
So the first book that I wrote was pretty much purely like a reference book, with some contextual essays and kind of stories about garments that I had sewn. Um, so there's a lot of heart in it, for a reference book, but no projects, no kind of applied techniques step by step. So, when Story suggested that maybe there might be another book that I would want to write, I said, "Oh yeah, I think that for some people it might be really nice to have a book that shows them, step by step, stitch by stitch. This is how you sew a t-shirt by hand, or this is
Mhm.
how you sew jeans by hand, or whatever it is." Um, and so that's what the book does. It goes through 9 modern basic garment projects, step by step, stitch by stitch. I also feel extremely passionate about promoting pattern making as
Mhm.
another very empowering magical skill set. So I kind of insisted that the book should also have pattern making instructions for each project so that there's no pattern envelope in back, and then you have to kind of figure out whether your body fits what I was drafting for. You take your own measurements and you plot them out yourself. And you can, of course, take a pre-existing pattern and then just skip straight to my hand sewing instructions, or you can just do the pattern making and then go to your sewing machine. But I give you both, and you get to choose from both. Um, I could go on, but
That's
we know
perfect.
this. I
That's
will give you
perfect.
200% of the of the length that is appropriate, but we'll stop
I
there.
think I came into hand sewing via Alabama Shannon, as many of us did, like maybe 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was then that I realized, oh my God, in my head, hand sewing would take the next 17 years. But I'm also a knitter and a spinner. That takes a long time to go from a fleece to a sweater. But hand sewing for me is something that I found is faster than sewing on the machine, as you say beautifully in your book, many places, because I can do it anywhere. I can do it in front of the television. I don't have a place, a dedicated place in my house for like a sewing machine. So it's just a big kerfuffle to do all of these things and for you to write so beautifully about bringing it into our lives everywhere we go has just been something I've loved learning and doing, and I adore your voice. The book can be found anywhere that fine books are sold, including you can order it online or probably get it from your library, which is always a great way to go. Will
Yes.
you tell us where we can find you online?
Sure. So my website is louisamary.com. So that's LouisaMerry, like Merry Christmas kind of Mary.com. Um, and then I'm on Instagram at Louisa Owen Sonstroem, which is a lot of letters. I can spell them out if you like,
That's
or
okay.
you
I'll
can
put
put
a
them in
link
the
in the show
notes.
notes. Yes,
Great.
perfect. Thank you so much for being here. I know this was a weirder ask for your podcast visit, but I'm so glad that you said yes.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.